Hello, and welcome back to the VictoriousWool podcast. I'm Victoria. I'm a knitwear pattern designer living in the Pacific Northwest. This is episode 44. It's November 9th, and we're really close to the shortest day of the year, so it's really dark for most of the day, and even when it is light out, it's not that bright. And I wanted to wait until there was a sunny day to record, but it don't look like there's going to be one until next week. So I get what I get. So it's maybe a little darker than it normally would be. And I have a reflector, a photo reflector right here to try to bring as much light over as I can, but I'm sort of stuck with it. So it is December. I have quite a few things to share with you today. Some really exciting projects being wrapped up and progress on other projects. Probably the big one that I've been waiting for a really long time to really be done with is First Light. This is by Woodland Knits. I will link the pattern below. I used Plotulopi, which is a Icelandic wool from Iztex, held double. It's an unspun woolly wool, and I used contrasting blue, and then I embroidered over the top of it the lighter blue and the apricot. And the pattern shows you how to, it doesn't actually give a tutorial about duplicate stitch embroidery. I looked that up on YouTube from Very Pink Knits. It was really easy to do. It just took a while because there's 9 motif repeats, so it probably took me 4 hours maybe to do it entirely, and I decided to add on a second color. So I did the embroidery of the blue, and then I went back through and figured out where could I space some little orange ones, because I thought that would be a nice contrasting color. As you know, I changed the neckline on this guy. It originally was too high and too tight, and so I took it out and did it again and made it a little wider, a little shorter, and I added a bunch of short rows in the back. The pattern has you add short rows right here, which is also a great idea. So I have short rows in 2 different spots, and I think it looks good. I'm not going to block the embroidery. I kind of like it raised up. It's very eye-catching and very pretty, and I blocked it wider too. The thing I did about the yoke, because this is a bottom-up sweater, so when I got to the yoke the first time, as I did it twice, I joined the body to the sleeves, and then I started knitting in the round, and the short rows that you do on the back looked really terrible. They just were really loose, and the gauge between what I had done on the body and what I was doing on the yoke was really different, and looked sloppy. And something that people often say about color work is that if you knit tighter when you do the color work than you would do stockinette, you should just go up a size. And that can work sometimes. I think it works for some people, and most of the time for me, it just makes my color work stitches really sloppy. So I decided to rip out what I had done. I detached the sleeves and the body, and I went down a couple needle sizes, and I did it again, and it looks way better. And it also just gave me, the short rows look better, and the color work just looks better. And when I blocked it, it flattened out so beautifully. Probably the best, most even flat color work that I've ever done. So I was really happy with that. And I got to do the neckline again to fix that, and I blocked the body nice and big because as it was really clingy to my torso, and maybe if I had made it a little shorter, that would have been okay, but with the length that it is, it really needed to be wider so that it, see if I can actually stand, so that it goes over my hips, as opposed to before it was more kind of like this. It's just too long. It wasn't falling very nicely, so yeah, I'm really happy with it. Somebody pointed out on Instagram, on one of the reels I have about this sweater, that if you knit from the bottom up, it's hard to know how long or short to make your body because you don't know how deep the yoke is going to be. And that is a great thing to point out. I think it's just as easy to knit. It's the same, similar, I'm trying to find the right words to say that. People think that knitting from the top down is easier because you can try it on as you go. But you can try on a bottom-up sweater as you go as well. You do have to consider different things. And you don't get to eyeball your length in the same way. So yeah, it might be like a little easier for a beginner, but I think once you know more about sweater construction, once you've knit a bunch of sweaters, once you've experimented a little bit, maybe you've knit one of these things, it's not that difficult. And I think it was just because we're familiar with top-down seamless raglans and yokes that we think they're easier. I don't know if that's really true. I think there's a lot of things that we think are easier just because we're familiar with them. But what I did with this sweater is when I got to the point where I thought it was time to join the body and the sleeves together, I went to the pattern and I actually counted how many rows I was going to knit from the join all the way up to the neckline. So I went to the pattern, like, how many rows is the short row? How many rows are in the chart? How many rounds? It's really rounds. How many rounds am I going to knit before I start doing the ribbing? And then how high is the ribbing? And I counted all those rows and calculated that by calculated that by the row gauge I was getting, how many rows per inch. And that told me how long it was going to be from the join to the ribbing. And then I added the amount of ribbing I was supposed to do. And that number was like 10 inches or something like that. And then I could take that and actually measure my body. And I also can measure like other sweaters. And I know that 10 inches is actually a really good length for like the depth of the top of a sweater, or the yoke or the raglan of a sweater. Straight down from like the back of the neck to the join is around 10 inches is a good length for me. So you can figure that out. You just have to count it and know that your gauge is going to be maybe slightly different from your gauge swatch as to what you will actually knit in the sweater. I mean, it also brings up this whole topic of like swatching isn't like precise, but it's essential that you get as close as you possibly can, and that you write your measurements down, and that you write your measurements down dry and you write them down after you've blocked, so you have like all this information about how to make good estimates. And that's how it gets easier to knit any kind of construction for a sweater. And I want people to have as much information as they can when they make garments to fit themselves, because the more information we have, the more likely you'll make a better guesstimate, you'll do better experimentation, and you'll get better and better at doing that and getting good fit. I don't know if I would have gotten good fit if I had just followed the pattern. I would not have gotten good fit if I had just followed what the pattern said. No way. My next finished object is the Sophie Scarf from Petite Knit. I used the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Juicy DK. Camp Tolt is the name of the colorway. It's exclusive for Tolt Yarn and Wool, which is a yarn shop here in Washington. And it's just a cute little scarf knit from one end to the other. And I think it'll make a nice addition to my wool pieces that I leave by the door that I can just grab when I'm running out. And if it's not too cold, I don't need something a little thicker. I think it'll get a lot of wear. I think sometimes, I don't know if I could wear it on my head. Maybe. That might be fun. I still need to knit a headband with that twist. You know, people have all those. I've always wanted to make one of those and I never have. But anyway, this was a really fun project. It's very quick. It only took a couple weeks because I didn't work on it every day. And I think I knit from the center out in like 24 hours or something, because I was like, I am so close to only having one project, so I can do it. So yeah. One other finished object from since the last time I recorded is my Knitter's Academia socks in red. This is a pattern I've been working on and showing on here for a couple months. It's just about to start testing. This is Garnet Heather and Prussian Heather in the KnitPicks Stroll Tweed yarn, which I love. Very, very nice. So fun to knit with. This is the original pair, Prussian heather and Persimmon heather. And I just started a Dill heather to go with Firecracker heather for Christmas. Little vintage Christmas pair. The pattern probably won't be out by Christmas. It got delayed in its finishing, but I should be putting the final touches on it today. Final layout. I have a group of people that are interested in testing. If you're interested in testing one sock and being able to knit one sock before the end of the year, please email me at victoriouswool@gmail.com, and it's victoriouswool@gmail.com before like December 12th, by the end of December 12th, if you're interested in testing, because I need to start the test in the next couple days, but that should be coming out. Yeah. I'm happy to keep knitting it. Every time I follow my own pattern, I'm just delighted with how simple and intuitive of a sock it is. I think it's a good basic vanilla sock. I wouldn't say, like, somebody who's never knit socks before, it's not a tutorial, so it won't guide you through every tiny little bit of, like, it doesn't have pictures or videos. I did link a couple different tutorials in the pattern for different types of needle methods. So it's written universally, but there are tutorials in there that other people filmed on YouTube for knitting magic loop, DPNs. My preferred method is using 9-inch circulars, and with 9-inch circulars you also have to use some other needle method to do the heel flap and the toe, because as you decrease your stitches, you don't, there's not enough to fit on a 9-inch circular, so you do have to, I use DPNs. You can use magic loop or 2 circular, but anyways, it's a good place to start if you're an adventurous beginner, or if you're an experienced knitter and you want to try knitting socks. But it's not like for someone who's just started knitting. I just want to make that clear. But yeah, it's a great basic pattern. I have tons and tons of this yarn in all the different colors, and so I'm just going to keep making them. And I'm really excited for the pattern to come out, so I can start like wearing the pairs more. I like to keep my samples like really, really clean, so I can do photography and I can do all of my marketing and stuff, and then I'm just excited to get to start wearing them because I've been keeping them nice. Let's see. I think the last finished objects to show you are my Yukon hats. So I knit another one in black, this is I think Obsidian was probably the name of the colorway. Let's see if it's here or if it's in my knitting basket. I bought a bunch of skeins of Rerum Natura Gilliat. Here's the label. I bought it on Mercerie's website. This is Eben, I think. I think Eben is the black one. Anyways, if you go on to Mercerie's website, you can find all the colors. There are a lot of colors, so I bought like 7 or something at the end of October, and I've so far I've knit 3 this season, but these are like, now I've knit 8 of them. So I knit this one a couple weeks back and had not quite finished it, I think, when I recorded last time. So I finished this one up and I knit the black one in like 2 days. So just really good shape for my face, and they're very comfortable, and I like that there's like some texture here, and like it's not hats that just pull straight back, and really it makes my head rounder, I guess is the simple way to say that. I like the black one a lot. I should have knit a black hat a long time ago, because it just goes with everything. I don't have to think about whether it's going to not go with my coat or a sweater I'm wearing or my scarf, or it doesn't matter at all. So it's just really It's really nice. And I knit this one really quickly in like 2 days. So yeah. When I got to this point, when I had this hat, before the day I started it, I only had one whip, which I'm going to show you now. And so when I knit this hat, I had 2 whips, and then I finished it and I had 1 whip again. And I was like, this is so crazy. I was texting as many people as who would have been interested in such a tidbit, but I was like, I only have 1 whip right now. I can't remember a time when I only had 1 ever in all of my years of knitting. It's probably like times when I had 1. I don't know, like I probably have never had, except for the very first pattern I ever really started, maybe would be the first whip or only whip. But like, I probably had little bits of things or like a hat here or there or whatever. But like to actually have a project, just one project, is maybe something I've never actually experienced or haven't for a really, really long time. And it was this. The Halibut by Caitlin Hunter. This is a yoke design with these beautiful fish. They were so fun to make. The first bit of the sweater was that I just had a bad attitude. It seemed like it was going to take a long time, and it was only going to get, the rows were going to get wider and wider, and it was going to get longer and longer. And then I just decided, talked about this a little bit in other places, like just decided to like enjoy it. Make no deadlines, no ideas about, oh, I'll do this much on this day or whatever. Like sometimes I really like push myself to get through projects, and I organize myself to make things happen. And I really enjoy doing that. And not this time I was like, no, I'm just going to be in the moment, and I'm going to turn on the audiobook. I listened to a lot of, I think the 4th Harry Potter book was what I was listening to when I was finishing up this yoke. And it was just really fun. And it didn't matter how much progress I made. It didn't matter. I just got to knit a few hours a day, and I just knit all the time. Anytime I could, I was just really, really eager to get back to that place where I felt calm and could enjoy the moment. I did also get really excited when I realized I finally made a significant leap forward in my color work technique, because I realized that I had been trying to knit loosely, and that wasn't going to work. It makes sloppy color work, I guess. If you go up a size, it makes sloppy color work. If you knit loosely, it makes sloppy color work. So I just knitting tighter, like my normal. And I finally feel like, what the technique difference was, I'm a continental knitter, which means I hold the yarn in my left hand, and I pick with the right needle. I pick up a little bit of thread with that right needle. And so doing 2 colors, I hold yarn in my right hand also. So I'm throwing and I'm picking. And I just decided that I needed, like, what would happen if I made my right-handed stitches tighter? And that like totally shifted. Like I thought, for a while I just needed it looser, so I was loose on the left and I was loose on the right, and really what I needed to do is tighten up on the right so they were more equal. And this is some of the best color work I've done, and just looks so good. I mean, it still has that, right, it hasn't been blocked yet, so it still has some like waves, as the fit in the fish, but just so happy with that. And then I started to cast on a sleeve, because I like to do about a little bit of the body or half the body, and then I like to pick up a sleeve. It's just a much, much smaller amount of stitches, and they go by really quickly, and I haven't knit the whole body, and I'm not like exhausted by this project yet, and so it's just fun. The sleeves are just so fun. And I did something really funny this time. I was like, okay, I'm going to keep track of sometimes the organization in and of itself is very stimulating. So I was like, I'm going to keep track of my decrease rows on my sleeve with stitch markers. So I mark every decrease round. I'm going to write down the decrease rate in my little notebook, every single row with knits and K's and D's. And I'm going to use a row counter. So I'm going to know exactly where I am all the time. It's totally redundant that I'm counting through 3 different ways, but it's really fun. And I can get distracted and come back to my knitting and go, oh yeah, I totally know where I am. I do need to try it on because it's looking like it's getting close to, I need to try it on to see where this is hitting my arm, because I don't want to decrease too far, too fast. And I changed, of course, what the pattern had you do. I'm doing my own thing because the sleeve looked nice and loose when I put my arm through the hole of the knitting here. And so I was like, I'm just going to start decreasing at the rate the pattern suggests, but I'm not going to knit first. I'm just going to go. And so now it's looking like, oh, maybe it's like small enough. I should stop and maybe do the rest of the decreases more towards my wrist. So I got to try it on and see. In case you don't know already, this is Kelleborn Woolen's Scout, which is their DK weight merino. It's really, really nice. This color is so beautiful. It's a heathered blue navy that has a little bit of like red in it. It's really, really lovely. And then the oatmeal heather is my contrasting color. So my plan is to relax and finish by December 31st. It's no longer my only whip because I have that sock pattern now, but it was fun to like have it be the only one for a couple days. Yeah, super, super fun. Okay, so I recorded this whole episode and then I noticed that my phone got dim, which means it's gonna, turn off in a minute. And I realized I was no longer recording. So I recorded, some of it was captured, some of it wasn't. But because of that, I went downstairs to I'm just going to have lunch and then I'll come back and redo some of it again. And there's a box of yarn waiting for me. So I have something to show you. This is it, like a roll, like a Tootsie Roll or like some sort of rollable candy of Plotulopi from Mistex, which is an Icelandic unspun wool, which I have a lot of. If you've seen me past episodes where I've gotten a lot of this before. I love that this is just so big. This is, I think, oatmeal heather. I think it is. I'll check and I'll put the right number in the show notes. I'm pretty sure it's oatmeal heather. So Melody Hoffman is a designer, French designer living in Brittany, who is probably my number one mood inspirational YouTuber and pattern designer who I just love and adore her so much. And she is obsessed with unspun yarn and this brand and a couple others that she's using, and she does a lot of patterns with it. And I've knit, I think, 2 or 3 of her sweaters with Plotulopi. She just came out with something called the Gentle Lopi, I believe, and it's a very oversized long tunic, raglan tunic, and I had no interest in making it. As she was developing the pattern over the last year, it's, I think, been ready for a while, and I was, didn't feel like super excited or whatever. She just released the pattern, and then I saw it a lot. You know how you just get exposed to something so often, you're like, actually, I kind of really do want to make this. And because my first light is so comfortable and warm and it's been so cold, it's been, close to freezing multiple weeks in a row. And we usually get in the winter total, maybe 3 weeks of freezing temperatures, and we might get a snowstorm. And that's our usual Pacific Northwest winter, at least on the east side of the Cascade Mountains. If you live on the west side. If you live on the east side, it's much colder over there. But suffice to say, I felt inspired one evening and I was like, how many do I need? And I'm like, I'll just get 10 just in case. This is so much wool. This is possibly wool enough for 3 sweaters. Very much so. So I'm a really tall person. It's a tunic. I just decided to go for it. And I have not yet knit one in this colorway. I do have this color already. But it was just, but that yarn's for a different project, so I can't disrupt another Melody Hoffman sweater I'm waiting for that she hasn't released yet. That I wanted to keep that yarn for that sweater, so I. And I did also order plates of black. I thought I was getting black Plotulopi, but the company sent me the wrong thing. They sent me 5 skeins or 5 balls instead of one plate. I got a ball of Lopi in black, which would be no big deal, and I'm not going to return it. It's fine. Iceland is too far to return something. But this is the colorway that I knit my Great Love in, 005, which is a heathered black. It's a beautiful yarn, but I knit so much with this yarn this year. And I'm like, if they could have sent me any other color of Lopi, and that would have been better than this color. So I have 5 of these. I can make a cardigan, I can make a hat. I have more of it that I had left over from the sweater. I could, you know, maybe like in a couple years, I'll feel excited about this yarn again. But anyways, I thought that was funny that I thought I was going to get more Plotulopi and no, more Lopi. Yeah. I think that's it for this week. There's a couple other things I've been talking about casting on. The Can't Pull Over by Amy Christoffers and the Claire de Lune socks by the Petite Knitter. I just didn't get to them this week. I was really, really focused on getting the embroidery done for First Light. I've had that sweater for so long, so I really wanted to finish it. And I've got to go right now and edit my Knitters Academia socks. So, you know, no casting on until this pattern is ready for testing. It will also be ready for pre-order. Probably what I'm going to do from now on, I think, is when I get a pattern into testing, I'm also going to put the pre-order up on Ravelry. I don't know how to pre-order yet. I'll try to figure that out. Pre-ordering on my own website. I know some people don't. Well, majority of my sales come through Ravelry, but there's a few people who I just wanted to be available for anybody who doesn't want to use Ravelry, that they can do everything that I'm doing on Ravelry on my website. So I'll just note it down somewhere that I need to upload. What you have to do for a pre-order, if you've never purchased one, what I do is I add the pattern to Ravelry, and instead of uploading the actual pattern file, I upload a much shorter, like 1 or 2 page file that says this is a pre-order, and I will send you the pattern on such and such date when it's released, and thank you so much for ordering early. It just allows me to start accumulating sales for a pattern at the time that I start talking about it, which is during testing mostly, and the lead up to the release. So anytime that I am talking about the pattern, it's actually available for sale, as opposed to like talking about something coming soon and you may not ever get to see it again because of the way the algorithms work and because the internet, Instagram, and Ravelry is so oversaturated with patterns and all these things that everyone's doing all the time, is creative stuff, that you may not see it again. So I want to make sure that I have something to give you as soon as you see it, or as close as I can. And so I'll try to get that same thing to work on Ravelry and my website. What happens when the pattern comes out, if you've pre-ordered, is you just get a Ravelry update in your inbox, and you can go to your library and download the update, which will have the full pattern. So a lot of people purchased my last pattern, the Fjord Shawl, on pre-order, and then I updated the pattern the morning of the release, and they all got it in their inbox. So I cannot encourage you enough to support me in that way, and by the pre-order, it lets me know that you're really excited about the socks. If you can't test, then you can pre-order and it'll show up in your inbox, I hope, if not by the very end of December, then right afterwards, because as soon as everybody's done testing, I look at everyone's notes, see if there's any problems or errors in the pattern, and I'll make the edits and then get it up to the internet. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely holiday season, a lovely Christmas, and get to take some time off and rest and get to knit something fun for yourself. If you're gift knitting, then I hope that you Godspeed with your projects, and that you get those things done on time and you can start knitting something relaxing and enjoyable for yourself. You'll see you later.